Rufus! Wake up! It's showtime! The history of refurbishments and reimaginings at the Walt Disney World Resort is kind of a mixed bag, especially in regards to its legendary attractions. The Haunted Mansion has improved over several decades, having experienced several refurbishments, and has largely become a better experience. However, the journey into imagination over at Epcot went the opposite way, creating a far less interesting attraction. Recently, one of Disney's most iconic attractions, Splash Mountain, closed to be reimagined with Princess Tiana and her crew. While we've not experienced the final product, parkgoers are already pretty divided on this particular decision. Nostalgia is an incredible force and plays a big part of why older generations continue to return to the theme parks. So how about we take a few minutes to chat about another iconic attraction at the Magic Kingdom, even older than Splash Mountain, undergoing a pretty big change. Thank you so much for joining us today. Hey, do us a huge favor and click that like button. And if this is your first time checking us out, consider subscribing to Retro Spectrum. So, how well do you remember the Country Bear Jamboree? Do you know the lyrics to the iconic songs? Can you remember the last time you visited Grizzly Hall? I'll admit, I'm pretty much a regular on this iconic Disney attraction. It's air-conditioned, which is nice, and there is rarely any line despite the excessive crowds you'll encounter at the Magic Kingdom on almost any given day. Still, the audience that you'll likely encounter on the inside of the theater tends to be a little light these days, much later than when I was a kid and the crowd would clap their hands and stomp their feet with real old country rhythm. The attraction was almost always a packed house. I feel like today, the attraction is often overlooked, plus you don't exactly see Country Bear's merchandise flying off store shelves. That's one of the reasons I was originally so excited to hear about this upcoming refurbishment back in September. If we're honest, the Country Bear Jamboree has been on the decline over the past several decades, and I, for one, think it's time for Henry and his family to get a little love. I'm all for making this attraction more relevant for future generations. More parkgoers should be familiar with names like Zeke and Zeb, Ted and Fred, and a bear named Tennessee. And speaking of Tennessee, the gateway to the south looks to be an inspirational component of this new version of the Jamboree. According to Disney's official blog, the Country Bears are getting ready to put on a new show that pays homage to the Opry-style shows of Nashville. Having recently spent some time there, I feel comfortable saying that the Music City is still kind of the melodic epicenter of our nation. You can visit the Grand Ole Opry or the Country Music Hall of Fame. But for my money, you just can't go wrong with Cross-Eyed Critters' Watering Hole. It's a little karaoke bar that looks to be inspired by the Country Bear Jamboree, complete with animatronic animal accompaniment. Of course, the Country Bear Jamboree was really the first of its kind and inspired other forms of entertainment like Chuck E. Cheese and Showbiz Pizza Place. The 5 bear rugs walked so that the Rock-afire explosion could run.
Summer vacation is really swell.
From the very beginning, the Country Bear Jamboree has always been about change. In fact, the original concept wasn't even meant for a theme park. The attraction was actually meant for a ski resort in California. Guests would enjoy a few different versions of the show throughout the day when they weren't smashing pillows or shredding the gnar or whatever it is that skiers do.
Here, one of our artist designers sketches out the members of a troupe of rather unusual bear vaudevillians. This is Henry, the master of ceremonies. He heads up a down-home country music review. Here we see the magic of what we call audio animatronics. Of course, it isn't really magic. It's a skillful blending of imagination, electronics, and computer technology.
Well, howdy, folks. Howdy there, Clarence. Welcome to the one, the only, the original Country Bear Review, featuring a bit of Americana, our musical heritage from the past. But enough of this chit-chat, yak-yak, and flim-flam. Just refrain from hibernating, then we'll all enjoy the show. Play on there, Gomer.
Plans for that Mineral King resort would soon change, and Imagineers decided to bring the Country Bears to a brand new theme park being built in Central Florida.
No doubt about it, music is an international language. The only thing is, when you get down around my part of the country, it has a little bit of an accent, you know. Now, we're about to hear the Disney Audio Animatronics Bear Band stomp out some of my kind of music, like this.
When it opened in 1971, the Country Bears proved to be quite a hit. So now, the people in California were jealous, which meant they had to build another Country Bear Jamboree out in Disneyland. The major change here would be the addition of a second theater to accommodate all the crowds expected in Anaheim. Unfortunately, the Bears' style of country music wasn't nearly as popular in Cali, and the second theater wasn't often used. Before Grizzly Hall was built in Disneyland, the surrounding real estate was known as the Indian Village and featured tribal dance shows, art, and architecture celebrating Native American culture. The area would be rethemed into Bear Country, home of the Golden Bear Lodge Restaurant, Davy Crockett's Explorer Canoes, and my personal favorite, Teddy Barrow's Swingin' Arcade, complete with a collection of classic games with a distinctive Country Bear flair.
Tokyo Disneyland opens April 15th, and its backers' biggest worry is it will be too popular. Once inside the sprawling Never Never Land, larger than either U.S. counterpart, an expected 10 million people a year will delight to traditional Disney fare, Cinderella's Castle, Tomorrowland, and Country Bear Jamboree.
The 80s brought about all kinds of change and excitement. The Country Bear Jamboree was a day one attraction for Tokyo Disneyland. It also became one of the first attractions to receive a holiday overlay in 1984. Yeah, that's right. Some of you have forgotten that the Country Bears had already been replaced by an alternate show. And you know what else? That holiday show was amazing. But I'm also a big fan of Vacation Hoedown, which replaced the original show in 1986 and stuck around until 1992 at the Walt Disney World Resort.
Already open to approving audiences is the Country Bear Vacation Hoedown in Bear Country. It's a Disney novelty in that it's a completely computer reprogrammed version of the park's Country Bear Jamboree, which had been a guest favorite since 1972. Disney show designer Dave Feighton explains why the effort was made to rework the popular attraction.
The old show's been around for about 14 years now, and it's getting pretty tired and worn out. So we tried to come up with a whole new show, and we came up with a play concept where we can have interchangeable shows.
This version of the show celebrates the great outdoors and some of our favorite summer activities like travel, picnics, and nature. I should also mention that the track list for Vacation Hoedown is full of absolute bangers like Rocky Top, Ghost Riders in the Sky, and a fun take on a John Denver classic. My point is, the Country Bear Jamboree has already been rethemed and refurbished in the past. In fact, I'll even go as far to say that change is a part of the brand. Still, some people sure are annoyed by the newest renovation we'll see this year.
Country Bear Jamboree at Disney's Magic Kingdom will temporarily close January 27th to make way for a new reimagined show. Check this out. Disney announced the new show will pay homage to the Opry-style shows of Nashville. Guests will hear familiar songs and some reinterpreted Disney hits in different genres of country music. It will reopen later this summer as the Country Bear Musical Jamboree.
I've seen several individuals on social media already comparing it to Enchanted Tiki Room under new management before they've even experienced what Imagineers have planned. Also, wouldn't a more appropriate comparison be Vacation Hoedown? Why are people on the internet always so frightened by change? And speaking of change, it's worth noting that the version of this attraction you'd experience over the past several years is actually a watered-down version of the original show, removing several songs, jokes, and dialogue. For example, when the Tubby Teddy known as Trixie starts to sing, we used to get off-color comments from the peanut gallery. A mounted buffalo head named Buff used to remark on her size. While the humor was a bit dated, consider this. Big Al sings an entire song about excessive amounts of blood, and that stuck around until the attraction closed. And it was my favorite song, too. Hot take, second best song was about 3 thirsty sisters. Third best song was 2 guys trying to convince a woman to shoot Little Buford. This attraction was absolutely wild. Another off-color item that stuck around for decades was Liverlips McGrowl. The term liverlips isn't a well-known phrase, and it's likely some of our viewers may not even be aware of its meaning. It's a slang term used to draw attention to an individual seen as having large or swollen lips. African-American instrumentalists, like brass players, were often the targets of these insults, making it pretty derogatory. At least for us humans, the bears must have been hibernating on that idiom. Also, I think it's worth stating that I haven't come across any evidence suggesting that McGrowl is meant to be some sort of racial stereotype. This may just be one of those examples of how things can just age really poorly. In any case, McGrowl will get a name change in 2024. The country music Casanova will now be going by Romeo McGrowl, which, I think is more fun. Liverlips relies solely on his appearance, while Romeo is kind of a strange and hilarious moniker to bestow upon a bear, and will likely rely more on his performance. So for the most part, I'm pretty optimistic for the changes coming to the Country Bear Jamboree, and based solely on the history of the attraction, I don't really have any reason to assume it'll be bad. Change is a quintessential part of the Walt Disney theme park experience. I'm pleased they went with a new show rather than shelving the critters entirely. The Country Bears have always been an iconic part of the Walt Disney World experience since day one, and I'm excited that Disney is putting in the effort to making these characters relevant for the next generation of parkgoers. Let's pack Grizzly Hall once more and fill it with people excited to hear country versions of their favorite Disney tunes. So that's my opinion, but now I'd like to hear from you. Are you a fan of the Country Bear Jamboree, and what's your favorite version of the show? Let us know in the comments section below. Thanks for bearing with us to the bare end, but before you go, please do us a favor, click that like button, and don't forget to subscribe to Retro Spectrum so you don't miss a single episode of Details.